we're going to discuss the importance of training camp buzz for rookie quarterbacks from the 2024 NFL draft class, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, and Spencer Rattler. This and more coming up next on today's episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everyday. As you know, I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Keith, talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, man, and the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over on the Locked On NFL Draft. Listen, DP, we talking quarterbacks, man. We talking rookie quarterbacks. We have Mr. J.J. McCarthy battling with Sam Darnold out there in Minnesota. We have Bo Nix taking his step forward to be that QB, that signal caller for Sean Payton. And then we have Spencer Rattler heating things up in the Bayou State on Mr. Derek Carr. We're going to have this great conversation. But listen, man, if you can hear my voice, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to comment and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel over at Locked On NFL Draft. But DP, I want to get this show started. But before we get this show started, man, why don't we hit them with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports aren't sporting like we want them to, but this summer FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. First round quarterback. I think he was the fourth quarterback off the board, which is still crazy to think about. We had 5 in the top 12 picks from the 2024 NFL draft class. The Minnesota Vikings moving up to select J.J. McCarthy. And for the most part of training camp, Keith, guys, he's been kind of with the twos, right? He's been second string. And up until a couple of days ago, shout out to my guy over at A to Z Sports, Tyler Fornes, my boy Forno. He covers he covers the Vikings, and he was at camp, and he talked about how Friday afternoon when they had practice, that was the first time that McCarthy got reps with the first team in the red zone drills. And then Saturday he got another opportunity, and he said he took advantage of it. He, in his piece over at A to Z Sports, he highlighted how McCarthy just ripped a pass to Justin Jefferson, right? That got a big response from the crowd, and everything. He just talks about the fact that, and even the clips that you see on Twitter, you see the arm talent that we all knew he had, right? You watched in Michigan when they did let him throw. If it's one thing about him, he's a fastball pitcher. He's got that fastball in his bag all day long. And even in the red zone drills, right? It's like 707 red zone drills. You're seeing him fit passes into minuscule tight windows. Now, where he needs to improve is it's the reps thing, Keith. He's not seeing it fast enough. So with this being the first week of preseason, this is going to be a big week for him, because when you do get out there and the bullets are live, and it's not your teammate defensive tackle that's pulling up, say, I can't touch the quarterback because he has a red jersey on. No, that's another team's defensive tackle or edge rusher who's happily to knock your block off, right? That's their job.
Like, they're gonna be happy to do that, GP, and he gets paid. And for him, right, it might be him making a team, right? If I get this sack, I might secure myself $500,000 for 2024, right?
And that's why it's going to be a big week, a big preseason week for J.J. McCarthy. But he is getting it's encouraging to see him get the first team rest, because I think, Keith, you tell me how you feel. If we got the reports going all the way in the preseason that he's only been with the twos, that will probably signal that he's going to be the second string quarterback no matter what.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that head coach Kevin O'Connell is approaching this the right way, right? It's kind of, if you have a quarterback competition, the only true way to get competition is that you have to let both guys compete with the very best there is out there, right? Like, I never understood having a quarterback competition and then the QB2, right? He has to operate with the the back end of the roster players and guys that's ultimately going to end up on the practice squad. That's just not fair, right? Like there's a difference between Justin Jefferson and then the seventh wide receiver on the roster, right? I want to throw the ball to Justin Jefferson too, right? I need a jump ball guy that can go get the football. So I think it is very promising, DP, with J.J. McCarthy and what he can do. And this is a race I think in the very best way possible that JJ is going to have to earn this because it will not be given, because we talked about this on another podcast that I think the ease of this offense, I think, would help Sam Darnold. It will ease some of his kind of, I guess, flaws, right, at the end of the day. And it will put him in position to where he can simply make plays. I think it's going to be a lot tighter. I don't think JJ McCarthy is going to walk into this situation and just like the Caleb Williams situation where he was just stamped the starter as soon as he was drafted, right? Like, no, we need a quarterback of the future, but we need a good quarterback of the future, not just anybody. So I think it puts him in a situation. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I agree, right? Like we with Caleb Williams, we know Tyson Bagent wasn't going to be the starter. We knew it was going to be Caleb Williams, right? We knew it wasn't going to be any veteran or bring in a vet. No, you're going to start the first overall pick and a guy that's played enough ball to where you know what you're going to get from him, especially with the weapons and talent that the Bears have. With J.J. McCarthy being in the same exact division, no, you don't have to start him. You're not going to give him the job, right? He knows what taking tough coaching and tough love is, dealing with Jim Harbaugh and the staff that they had over there in Michigan, right? So he kind of knows the lay of the land in that sense, to where you said, no, hey, JJ, we need to see you get better here before we can ever put you on the field as the starter, right? And even I know there was a lot of much ado, in my opinion. I don't want to say much ado about nothing, but there was a lot of talk pre-draft about him throwing to his left. People said, man, he doesn't throw a lot to his left, especially outside the numbers, down the field. And then you see either the fan clips or social media clips from the Vikings or some of the beat reporters tweeting out clips of him throwing down the field to his left.
Yep.
Air under the ball, accurate, on time, ball placement. And it's like he just needs the rep. So can you tell me, if you're Kevin O'Connell or if you're an offensive analyst, somebody on that staff, and you're getting ready for the preseason, how are you divvying up the reps in terms of, we know what Sam Darnold is, you know what I mean? So it's like, do we still, I know it's a QB competition, but do we need to see more of Sam Darnold, or do we need to see more of JJ McCarthy throwing the ball, because we know how the offense was structured for him that helped him a lot at Michigan?
Yeah, I would say so. I don't want to, because I feel like every training camp situation is different when it goes to playing starters. And we talked about that. I think we talked about that with the Caleb Williams situation, right? So I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings, right, and isolate them and talk solely about them. How would I handle it? I would probably split the reps, because this is what I need to know. Because I still need to know something from Sam Darnold. Also, is that I need to know how good are you, right? Like what can you elevate us to? Because at the end of the day, DP, I'm the head coach. I want to win games. I want to put the Minnesota Vikings in contention to win the NFC North, right, and ultimately make the playoffs. And so if Sam Darnold gives me the best opportunity to do that, I want to do that, right? And I want to feel good about, hey, I know what Sam Darnold can be. And then after I figure out who Sam Darnold is, I'm giving J.J. McCarthy all of the snaps, right? Whether it's a couple with the first team, some with the second team, third team, because now what I need to know from J.J. is like, hey, your trajectory is going to be pointing forward. I need to know what you can't do, right? Like Sam Darnold, you pretty much, it's almost opposite. It's like you want to identify what Sam Darnold can do. You want to identify what J.J. McCarthy can't do right now to be able to take that next step, so that way you can go to the tape and correct it. Sam Darnold has plenty of film out there to know what he can't do, right? There's enough out there for us, DP, to figure that part out. So for Sam Darnold, you want to give him some of those first team reps, because you want to say, hey, how does he look inside my offense? And then JJ, you want to know, hey, on the NFL scale, big scope, right? What can he do overall? So that's how I will handle it. But DP, the Denver Broncos, they are up next, man, because we're talking about rookie quarterback, Mr. Bo Nix, the guy that just left Oregon a couple months ago. Now he's the head signal caller for Sean Payton. Or is this a quarterback competition at all? We're going to talk about that and more coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as soon as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games. And the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day all summer long. And guys, you can get in on the action of betting for preseason odds in college football and the NFL. So head over to fanduel.com and start making the most out of your summer. Head over to fanduel.com and start making the most out of your summer, because FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. The fifth QB off the board in the top 12 picks is Bo Nix. Kid out of Oregon that the Denver Broncos said, Sean Payton said that's going to be our guy. And early in camp, there was a lot of mixed reports. I mean, there's still some mixed reports coming out. You know, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You know what I mean? So some people see the game differently. You got some reports that they gave glowing review on Bo Nix. Some other reports are, he was kind of shaky. And I think that's kind of been the whole theme throughout training camp for Bo Nix. But for the most part, I think he's taking a step forward, right? Where you hear James Palmer talk about how the fact that he's at camp at the line of scrimmage, making checks and audibles and looking off safeties and identifying safeties. And to be fair, and I think this is just a scouting nugget for everybody listening. Reps do matter, right? Like the more reps you have, you create the clearer picture. Brock Purdy, and that's something I learned when it came down to Brock Purdy, was those reps, all the reps in the games and snaps he took in college was invaluable. It was so important for him, because at least he knows, he's seen it all, he's done it all, right? He's seen pressure, all those type of things, where he's not gonna get shell shocked. Where a guy who only played 40 snaps or 40% of the snaps in his college career, you're like, I don't really know what you have and haven't seen yet. And then when he sees it for the first time, he might look like a deer in headlights. With Bo Nix, he started all 5 years at college. So this is I think he right now owns the record, the NCAA record.
Nobody has played more football than Bo Nix.
But keep an eye out for Oregon's new quarterback, Dylan Gabriel. He has a chance to actually, I think, tie and beat that record that Bo Nix has. So, yeah, Oregon's about to probably do it. Yeah. It's nuts, right? Just a quick nugget for those. Pay attention to that throughout the season. We're going to hear that talked about during the broadcast. But I think with Bo Nix, man, to hear he's doing those things, especially in Sean Payton's office. I think Chase Daniel who talked about it. Like, dude, you've got veteran quarterbacks. Like, man, Sean Payton's training camps aren't easy. And for him to already kind of have the playbook down in that sense, to be able to make those checks and calls, he's taken a step forward. And I'm excited to see him. And we'll talk about it again a little bit later on this week as we preview some of these rookie matchups. But I'm excited to see him in the preseason, because then we got to see how he is, again, live bullets. The bullets are live and they're flying. It's a real defense across from you, and how he handles that situation.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Bo Nix because of what you said at the very beginning of this, right? It's been mixed reviews. And I think that's how he was in his career. I think that's how it was as a draft prospect, right? And it seems like that's where we're at now. It's been like there hasn't been a consensus on him one way or another, right? Like people can't decide the simple stuff, whether he has a strong arm or average arm, right? People can't decide if he's a deep ball thrower or is he a behind the line of scrimmage guy. So there's so much to pull out of Bo Nix, and just like I talked about with J.J. McCarthy, right? Like this is about figuring out, what he almost, I want to say can't do, because the conversation was also this about Bo Nix, DP, him as a draft prospect, was how does he process, right? When it's not, 11 personnel or 10 personnel or something like that, right? And he just has a spread and he just has to throw quick screens and go routes. Like how does he process? And so I think Sean Payton is going to push him, right? Sean Payton is going to want to know that. And as somebody that's lived in New Orleans, right, has watched a lot of New Orleans Saints, especially with Drew Brees, I'm fairly familiar with Sean Payton and what he asks his quarterback to execute. And he doesn't mind putting stuff on their plate, right? But he also holds them to a high expectation as far as what he wants them to be able to do. And if I call this play, execute it how I want you to execute it. And obviously the situation that happened with Russell Wilson last year, right? So we figured that out, firsthand situation. But I just want to, I think for myself, DP, we talking about Bo Nix. I want to know what he can do, right? Because when we evaluate these draft prospects, the best draft prospects, not the best players, right? But the best evaluations as draft prospects are the clean ones, right? Like if you're good, then it's a clean evaluation. I know you're really good. You're good at X, Y, and Z, right? If you're bad, I know you're really bad, right? You're bad at X, Y, and Z. The ones that get you caught up as a talent evaluator are the guys that's in the middle, right? Like it's like, I don't know what to do with this. I think the quote I had for Bo Nix, right, was that there's a canvas with a lot of paint on it. You just don't know what the picture is, right? And it still applies to Bo Nix to this day. It's the same exact thing. And we're into his NFL career, and it's been the same conversation from Auburn, right, to Oregon, to the draft process, to now with the Denver Broncos, especially the reports coming out of training camp.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Coach Mike Sanford. One of the he covers them, and he's one of the analysts and everything over there. One of the insiders. He talked about the fact that on Twitter he put out a tweet, said Bo Nix is your starting quarterback. And some of the things he saw after I think the 10th training camp practice. And again, I think to your point about Sean Payton, seeing Bo Nix operate quickly from a lot of the clips I've watched, and he's getting quicker with his operation and distributing the ball. And you made a point, Keith. You said 10 and 11 personnel. And I wonder, I know they're going to run the ball with Javonte Williams because he's their number one running back. You're going to run the ball. I wonder how much 11 personnel we see, how much shotgun Bo Nix we see with Sean Payton, because I always felt like Bo Nix, when you allow him to, when you spread the field and give him options, right? I think that's when he's better. It's like, no shot at my wife. But it's like, asking the wife.
Hey, listen,
like
I disagree.
The wife, what do
whatever DP's wife, whatever comes out his mouth, I disagree with DP. I don't know what he's about to say. I disagree with him.
Listen, hey, every man listening to this pod know what I'm about to say. You know it's true. When you ask your wife or your girlfriend, your spouse, what do you want to eat, babe? And if you don't have a smorgasbord of options, you get, I don't know. So, you know what I mean? It's like that where Bo Nix is that. Like if you take your wife to a good buffet, oh, they got something for her. She's gonna find whatever she needs, and she's gonna be taken care of. She's gonna be satisfied. But if you shrink the options, I don't want that. I don't want that. Like, okay, what do you want? And that's where it is. I think with Bo Nix right now is that when you open the field for him, he's good. He's gonna be able to find his quick, especially the quick game. He is good in the quick game, getting the ball out quick, distributing. He has the arm to make the 3 ball right down the field, push it down the field. The accuracy and ball placement has always been a little spotty for him. But Keith, I think, and I'm be interested when we get to this preseason game. Who comes out with the ones? Because that's going to be telling to me. Is it Jarrett Stidham or is it Bo Nix?
And DP, that's the part where you talk about the buffet and having the slim options, right? For Sean Payton, he didn't necessarily give him a lot of quality options, right? At the end of the day, and when you go, you know what I'm saying? Like when you look at the quarterback depth chart, it's like I would have even been okay with the Jimmy Garoppolo.
I'm pretty sure Zach Wilson's like QB3 right now.
Yeah, he is. That's the quarterbacks. Like, and that's what we said. This could potentially be a really good situation, or it can potentially be the Spider-Man meme, right? Where we all have the same traits, like good and bad, right? We all have the same thing. But what the point I was going to make was that in training camp, and this is just from my experience, right? I'm sitting there coaching or just watching sideline, watching practice, watching these guys. You always want a good on good situation, right? Or you want to know what the barometer of good is, because you can be getting ready in training camp and thinking, oh yeah, this is QB1, right? Well, just because he's your best quarterback don't mean that he's the best quarterback. You get what I'm saying? Like your best quarterback could be quarterback 21 in the entire scope of the NFL. So that's the tough part about competition and just hoping that this is not a situation where it's the best of what we got versus, hey, he's playing really good football at the end of the day. Like I would have been, and maybe Sean Payton and Jameis Winston didn't get along, right? Maybe that's why this situation didn't happen. But what would have been an easy kind of parallel is like, hey, bring in Jameis Winston, an experienced guy, right, who's won some games in the NFL, has made some not smart decisions, but he's a veteran at the end of the day to kind of put behind him, or Jimmy Garoppolo, or you the team that go get Sam Darnold, or one of these backups, Gardner Minshew, right? Like somebody like that, to where you're bringing in a viable backup option. He's never there to be your long-term solution. Sam Howell, right? I would have brought in Sam Howell and let him push Bo Nix. So you just want to know how that situation is going to play out, and like you said, we'll see.
And shout out to Yahoo Sports senior NFL reporter Charles Robinson. He put in his report recently, I think it was yesterday. He put in his report and said that the staff wants Bo Nix to be their starter, but they're not handing it to him. They're making him. They want him to feel that element of competition. They want him to work and earn it. Right. Similar thing we just talked about in the first segment, going back to J.J. McCarthy. And when it comes down to Bo Nix, they say he's earning it, and they say he's steadily getting better. And there's a strong chance, as long as that continues, per Charles Robinson, he's going to join Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels as a Week 1 2024 rookie starter. I'm ready for football, man. I'm ready for football. I'm ready to see these guys with the pads on. I'm tired of training camp stuff. I'm ready to see some preseason and regular season football, Keith.
DP, we're about 1 month away, man, from the regular season kickoff. But let's keep this thing going and flowing. You know where we're going, DP? We're going to my hometown. We're coming close to me, baby. We're talking about those New Orleans Saints. We're talking about Spencer Rattler heating things up for Mr. Derek Carr in that quarterback competition down in the Bayou State. We're going to talk about that coming up next.
Today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Guys, what are some of your self-care non-negotiables? For myself, every month I have to make my therapist appointment once a month to make sure I'm in the right headspace. I'm getting things off of my chest. I'm not being heavy weighted and burdened down. It's a non-negotiable for me. But when your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and so much more, it's just so easy to let your priorities slip. Even when you know what makes you happy, but it's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever, because it helps you become and be the best version of yourself. So if you've been thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. Never skip a therapy date with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Believe he was selected in the 5th round of the 2024 NFL Draft. Keith, our guy out of South Carolina, Spencer Rattler, took a tumble down the draft board that we didn't foresee happening, but I think he fell to a really solid, a really strong situation considering what's going on in New Orleans. Because Keith, and this is in the grand scheme of things, right? We know that there's some specific big media markets. If you fall to the Dallas Cowboys, you either loved or hated, aka Dak Prescott. You know what I mean? You go to New York, the lights are bright, no matter if you're with the Jets or the Giants. It just is what it is. I feel like Spencer Rattler can fly under the radar a little bit in New Orleans and just continue to stack days. And they said that he had, I think it was 2 days ago when I was reading the report, they said that he had himself a good day. He had a strong performance, and arguably had the play of the day on the touchdown to, I think, the tight end Holker and everything, where he just rips it. And, they say he's been turning heads and he's been heating up, and he's battling with Jake Haener for that backup job, that QB2 spot in New Orleans behind Derek Carr. And I'm going to be honest with you, if I'm Dennis Allen, a guy who I think the seat's kind of warm, if not hot.
It's hot. It's hot.
It's inferno. Okay, just want to make sure. I don't want to speak out of turn, but it's a blaze right now for Dennis Allen. And if we get to week 6, 7, and things don't look right, you kind of have to make a decision, because we know, no disrespect to Jake Haener, I don't think anybody looks at him as a guy that has the tools to be the future, right, of that QB position. But Spencer Rattler does. And if I'm him, I want to see Spencer Rattler do well in practice and continue to improve, because that's going to make the decision once we get to midseason a lot easier for me.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm about to say an old football saying, DP, that I don't agree with it 100%, but it so applies to this situation. The most popular person on a bad football team is the backup quarterback.
Yep.
And I couldn't think of a situation where that saying applies more, DP. Spencer Rattler, he is very popular in New Orleans right now. I think I seen somebody tweet out, I think he went 9 for 11 with 2 touchdowns or something like that. And that's just getting the Saints fans going and heating up this race. I would, we talk about our listeners, right? And so we're going to say, oh, he went in the 5th round. Every pick is not created equal. Right. And players fall for certain reasons in certain situations. Right. And so I would not treat from an arm talent perspective Spencer Rattler like a 5th round pick at all.
Oh.
I would not treat Spencer Rattler like a 5th round pick from a knowledge of the game of football at all. I would not treat Spencer Rattler as a 5th round pick as a guy who has spent timeless amount of time on task throwing the football, playing 7-on-7, routes on air, being a celebrity since he was 16, right? I would not treat him like a 5th round pick. And so I just think that probably not even the first time, right? Coming off of South Carolina and then being drafted for the first time, DP, it in a weird way, Spencer Rattler was not wanted. Right, because he was wanted out of high school. You kind of get what I'm saying? Like he was that guy. Like
3 years ago, Keith, he was wanted. He was the first overall projected. He was supposed to be in CJ Stroud's shoes right now.
Even I believe coming out of Oklahoma, right? Even after being benched by Lincoln Riley, he was still a highly touted, highly coveted guy because, like, man, if we can just get our hands on him, we can do some things in him. But I think this is the first time where he kind of just had to sit there, right? Day 1 goes by. Like, okay, I expected that a little bit. Day 2 goes by. Wait, hold on. What's going on here? Day 3, right? We get halfway through day 3, and you finally start to hear your name. So I think it's going to wake him up a little bit. Not to say that I don't even want to say wake him up. I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, unlike he's ever had before, because I don't think he's ever been put in this situation. And we talked about the arm talent as a draft prospect. It's there, DP. It's there. And now he's versed in what he's done because he played at South Carolina, right? That had some pro style elements in it too. He played in this wild style situation, right, with Lincoln Riley, with the spread concepts and things like that. So now he's scheme versatile also, DP. So I expect him to step in and do some things with the New Orleans Saints. And I think he is going to push Derek Carr to the brink, to be completely honest. And I think Derek Carr let me say this. I don't know what happened with Derek Carr. I used to think Derek Carr was a solid option for a starting quarterback, but Spencer Rattler is definitely going to put some heat on him.
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, we're gearing up for training. We're gearing up the transition from training camp to preseason, and that's when tape is out, and you able to, as a rookie quarterback, you expect, similar to J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix, maybe not so much. I don't think Bo Nix is going to get 2 quarters, but if Sam Darnold starts for the Vikes, I expect at least a full quarter of J.J. I think Spencer Rattler could get a half. And if you give him a half, and like you said, being scheme versatile, where being in that air raid, he's comfortable in shotgun. He can get into pistol. Going to South Carolina, he did those things, but he also got under center, handed the ball off, naked boots. He was the best quarterback in Mobile, and Bo Nix was there. Michael Penix Jr. was also there. Michael Pratt was there. Joe Milton was there. He was the best quarterback. Matter of fact, we sat on the sideline during the game, and he was the guy who opened the first drive. He threw a touchdown, right? To put his team up on the board. And I think he played maybe one more drive, and then they yanked him. They was like, no, we're good. You're good. Let's go ahead and get off the field. You've proven and showed for 3 days of practice and in a live game what you can do. I absolutely think that he's not just heating up, but that QB2 spot, again, no disrespect to Jake Hayner, but I want a guy that can take advantage of Rashid Shaheed's speed, of Chris Olave's speed, of Taysom Hill's speed. You know what I mean? Is that kind of jack of all trades, tight end, H-back, fullback, whatever he is. You want to get him out there too, matched up on some linebackers, because as coming out of BYU, he tests as a 4-4 athlete. And you see that with Taysom Hill, whenever he has the ball in his hands and he can get in open field, it could be a house call. He's got that type of speed in open field. So you got speed on this field. A.T. Perry, big body guy. They brought in Bub Means from Pittsburgh, another taller, athletic kid.
He has a real shot to make some plays too, Bub Means.
100%. So I think for Spencer Rattler, man, I'm looking forward to I love hearing the reports that he's doing well, that he's improving, that he's taking the step forward and heating up in a sense. And like you said, if you're Derek Carr, you have to. Yes, Dennis Allen probably reassured you, hey, Derek, you're our quarterback. You QB1, man. Don't worry about it. But then you sitting there in the preseason game and Spencer Rattler throws 2 touchdowns, and you just looking around, how excited everybody. Like you hear the rejoice and from the fans and from your teammates. Like, man, you see that throw, that arm talent, and you just looking around with this kind of look. Like, hold on, man. Like, I am QB1, but this feels a little odd. So feels different. I'm excited just to see how this plays out. But like I said, if anybody fell to a situation where you can kind of be under the radar and just grind, it's Spencer Rattler. You can just put your head down, go to work, be a student, be a bookworm, learn that offense. And when the time comes to get on the field in preseason, showcase what you can do, make the right decisions. If he takes the same trajectory as he did at Senior Bowl throughout this preseason, but he's getting more time to play, so he's able to throw more touchdowns, things like that. Yeah, it's going to be the media in New Orleans and the Bayou is going to be talking. The fans are going to be chanting. Like, Derek Carr, first game, man, you cannot throw a pick early in that game. You can't go out there and play inefficient quarterback because all you're going to hear is those chants start real silent. Rattler. And it's going to get louder. And it's like, okay, we can't argue. We can't ignore this anymore.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I know our guy, Mr. Ross Jackson over at Locked On Saints, is going to have that whole thing covered in detail.
Absolutely.
So if you want to know more about that, go tap into the Locked On Saints podcast with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft podcast. I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. If you can hear my voice, hit that like button. Make sure you go comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson, and you can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, what? Y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube. Wherever you listen to podcasts, get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydays. On tomorrow's episode, guys, we are getting into previewing rookies to watch for the kickoff to the 2024 NFL preseason. What rookies and second-year players you need to keep your eyes on. We're going to talk about all that and more the rest of this week. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.